which of course was me helping him, but he actually hit the ball. The first thing that came to my mind.
All right, welcome to another episode of Pryce on Purpose. I'm your host, Stacey Pryce, and I am brought with today my buddy, Michael Bryan. How are you, sir?
I am doing fantastic. Yeah, I'm excited. Very, very grateful that I'm a guest on the show again, and I look forward to what we dive into.
Awesome. Yeah, I was actually curious about interviewing you because actually I was on your show, right? It wasn't on your show. It was for your conference that you had.
Yes, the podcasting conference.
Yes. So thank you for having me on that. And I learned actually a lot from you at that time. And I was like, I gotta have this guy on my show because I didn't realize how much alike we were in certain ways. I mean, there's obviously differences, but I found that very interesting. But first, like, tell everybody like who you are and like what you do. We'll start there.
Well, I spend the majority of my time now as either a podcaster slash talk show host, if you will. And another thing that I am very passionate about is self-improvement. So the idea of self-help, bettering yourself, all those things, that started to play a big part as soon as I realized that the more I developed and grew as a person, everything else started to click a bit more, whether it was business, my health, my relationships, whatever it was. It became a bit of a self-development thing first, and it would change from the inside out. It wasn't, I had to just get healthier. It was right. Who do I need to be? What lifestyle do I need to adopt in order to be healthier?
Right.
Or to grow my business? So it became, unfortunately, for what a lot of people teach, it started off as a bit of a self-centered thing.
Okay.
If I felt better in myself, everything else improved. So it's a bit of a realization for me, in that if I improve myself, everything else changed. Almost like everywhere you go, there you are, right? The very saying. And I realized that I could give more, I could help more, because I'm a big helper. The only thing that keeps my people pleasing at bay is the fact that I choose how I do it. So it's
right.
sort of, I don't just help anybody in any way that they see fit. I like to control it. It's the way I sort of maintain the healthy balance. But that was a big starting point for me maybe 5 years ago.
Right.
And I realized that there are so many people that are not being helped by the self-improvement, personal development, whatever words you want to call it. They're not getting the benefit. They're not being helped by it, no matter how hard they try. And it's kind of our fault that they're not being helped. Can't blame the person looking for the help if the help being provided. It's kind of on us then. So I felt a bit of a responsibility to those people to share my experience with it. People started to relate to it. They started to understand it. They understand all the stigmas that I had, and all the skepticisms that I had around the self-help space. And that spurred me to write my second book. And I've sort of accidentally became an author.
I like that you said by accident, but I could see what you're saying. So you mean like so I wanted to go back a little bit because a lot of people don't know that you struggled with health issues from birth with cystic fibrosis. That's what I was actually pulling up here. So I wasn't actually familiar with what cystic fibrosis was. But then I realized that it can cause severe damage to the lungs, digestive system, and other organs. And that could be a huge setback. So is it that you're saying, and also the funny thing is, let me go back even further. Your first book is called My Introvert Journey to Being Visible.
Yeah.
And I just actually started reading that book, and I realized that not only did you have issues with your health, but you also had issues in school, being bullied. So you had a lot of setbacks to start, just to start. And you would say that because of those experiences that you've been through, you're sharing the knowledge because you feel like self-help can be done differently. Is that what it is, to like help the people? Like, you're helping who again?
Well, the most difficult thing about self-help is it comes from an empowered place,
Right,
meaning
right.
you're helping people that need a bit of a nudge,
Hmm.
people that just need to lose a few pounds, or people that, because the problem with self-help is it borderlines psychology
Hmm.
and psychotherapy, and you need to see a professional psychotherapist or psychiatrist or whatever it is. So
Hmm.
self-help is in this gray area
Hmm.
where it's helping people that need a bit of help. Does that make sense?
Okay, so you're saying that you feel that the self-help gurus or so, that their message is geared towards people that don't need to make huge differences. You feel that it's being geared towards people that need to make small differences. Is that what you feel?
I think it's the same things being taught in different ways
Okay.
and different ways of saying the same thing.
Okay.
And as the world's changed, it's been packaged in a way that's more consumable, like short videos instead of long videos, that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay.
One
Yeah,
of
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, so you mean like those quick hit videos, like just be courageous, be great, like you're amazing. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think for me, it's like I see that there are a lot of self-help videos that are like a cool 1 minute introduction into, say, being confident or loving yourself and things like that. And I think that, yeah, it does fit somebody that's just like, look, I just need a quick pick me up. You know what I mean? I just need to like I just need something to get me going. And granted, I do listen to those. I do listen to those. And sometimes it's just like I need like a quick mindset shift. But yeah, they're like, for me, like I do, this show, like gratefully that you're on, because this is a longer version. So what you're saying, I do agree that I mean, it depends on the person, because I can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped. Like, somebody can read your book and be like, that's great for him. You know what I mean? And then they just shut down and be like, well, he's not me. Like, I see where we're kind of similar, but we ain't all that, locked in. But
Mhm.
that's a very actually interesting point that you brought up, because I spoke about this on my last show, where when we look at self-help sometimes, and this may be a little different from what you say, but I feel like some people read the self-help or look at the self-help and they're like, this will be great for Joe. This will be great for Steven. This will be, and then we forget to look at us. Like, because we feel like, well, let me know if you align with this. Like, some of us may be in a space where we're like, learning has capped. I've reached my highest of heights, and that's it. Do you feel that some people meet that mark where they feel like there's no real learning after that to increase their potential?
I think, unfortunately, people look at self-help and they don't expect a lot of it to begin with.
Mm,
They might read a book and think, well, that'll be good for about 2 weeks, and then real life will hit, and I've still got these responsibilities over here, these things to do over here. Life gets in the way very, very quickly. And
mm,
obviously, the faster your life is, the quicker that happens, right? You could read a book and go, hmm, tomorrow's a new day.
mm,
You're back into the whole, well, this is real life sort of
mm,
thing. So people are starting to have the detachment from self-help as a whole, which filters down into the strategies, right? Because
mm,
meditation works if it works for you, journaling works if it works for you. believing in yourself is an amazing starting point. The
Mm-hmm.
problem is it's painted already. People look at it through a lens of, but that won't work for me, or you're lucky if
Yeah,
it works
there's
for you,
some that.
or that works for them and not the people over here. There's
Right.
this natural lack of potential with it. If people go in with this, like, well, it's not really going to do anything, is it? It's just a book, or they're telling it from their experience, or it's very well and good saying a lot of attraction changed your life after the fact. But
Mm.
how many have tried to use it and not benefited? They don't tell the non-success stories. So it's a combination of low expectations, being a bit more critical. People are more critical now than ever,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more cynical, and it breeds this sense of they don't think that it'll help them either. Like, deep down, they're doing it because they want to help, and yet they have this subconscious belief that it won't.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's kind of the self-help industry's fault in some ways, but then equally, people have to take responsibility for their
That's the
situation
thing.
anyway.
Yeah.
Like that, we're in a situation where it's a two-way street now. You can't blame the gurus for you not going out for a walk every morning. You can't, you can't blame us essentially, because I'm officially in that boat now. So you can't blame us, so to speak, for you looking at the strategy, looking at how to do it, figuring out how to integrate it into your life, and then you not doing it. Like,
Right.
at what point do we cross over from the advice and then you taking the advice? We need to find out where that line is before we can say who's responsible for your results. Because
Right.
the advice might be poor advice, so the line might be here, right? But if it's good advice, other people have taken it, it's worked for them, they've progressed slowly and just gradually got better and better and better every time they did it, and you do it for half that time and then stop. That's not then the advice. That's your ability to commit to it and be competent at it and integrate it into your life, right? The lifestyle that you have.
Right. Right. I'll make a point here because you're bringing up something very important where it is on the person to not only find the person that they align with, because not every person is going to speak to you. You know what I mean? For example, I remember in my past, a friend of mine, shout out to Elliot, he knows who he is. A friend of mine years ago, he I was probably like maybe like 17, 18. I'm 36 now, I think. Allegedly. I think I'm 36. All right. So years ago, a friend of mine was like, there's this great guy that I've been reading his books. And he's like, his name is Tony Robbins. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, he's got a lot of self-help things. I'm like, well, like who needs self-help? Like, I don't need, what I mean? Like, I was very like in that teenage world where it's like, I'm fine, everything's good, you know what I mean? And I think some of us even take that into adulthood, you know what I mean? And we cap out. We're just like, okay, this is my limit. I've always been this way. So there's no room in that type of mindset for change. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, Mike, like 2 or 3 years ago, this name, Tony Robbins, comes up again because I watched that documentary, I Am Not Your Guru, on Netflix.
Ah, yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
see that?
I know it. Yeah, yeah.
So I watched it and I'm like, whoa, look at this. I'm like, look at this. Like, I was in tears. I'm sitting like, yo, he's out here like changing lives. Like I was just like so like amazed. I was like, this is the same Tony Robbins that my friend was telling me about. Like I couldn't believe it. But the thing is, sometimes I feel like self-help, just like we were talking about ownership, self-help won't speak to somebody when they're in that mindset. You know what I mean? Because they're gonna read it and be like, that did nothing for me. Like, for example, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this author, Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah. I know
All
him.
right.
Yeah.
You know, so I read that book, The
But I,
Power of Now, right? Did you read that?
I have read it, yeah.
Some people read that and they're like, it didn't sit. I didn't understand what he was saying. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? But that's the thing. Like, I feel like some people have a message, right? And there's nothing wrong with the message. It's clear, but it may not be clear to some people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you something. So where are you from, first of all?
I'm from the UK, England.
Okay. So you born and raised, you still live there currently?
Yeah.
Awesome. So growing up, like what part of your, like how did you do it? That's what I want to know, because you're in this space now. You're in the Tony Robbins space. You're in the Eric Thomas space. Does that sound weird to hear? At this point in life, does that, it's like, what? Does
Uh,
that sound weird to hear in this moment?
yeah, because Tony's got about 20 or 30 years on me, so um, I've got a while to grow into the whole Tony Robbins thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that you've put me there straight away. You've gone, Mike, yeah, Mike, Tony Robbins, same sentence, that works. Um,
No,
but
it's true. You are in that space. Think about it. Yes, he had, like, if we think numbers, that's a different story. When I'm not talking about numbers, I'm talking about value, purpose. Same purpose. You're taking your story, which Tony's doing the same thing, taking his story and helping others with the experiences that he had to let others know, like, one, you're not alone, and two, even though you say you can't, you can. Would you say you kind of doing the same thing, right?
yeah, I mean, the only differentiated obviously is time in the game, right? Like I've
Mm-hmm.
read one of his books as well, Tony's books,
Mm-hmm.
and the publishing date was the year I was born. So yeah, I've got a while. I was sort of, but I agree that that's where I'm at. That's kind of the industry that I'm in, and you. The reason why I wrote the book was I thought there was a great big divide between the people that need the help,
Mm-hmm.
that just want the help, and the
Okay.
people that are ready for the help and giving the help. Because you can't blame the advice, but equally the advice still has to fit with you. So
Correct.
it's a lot more complicated
Mm-hmm.
than I originally thought before I started writing the book. And as I started, because some of it is me thinking out loud, right? It's not fully formed until the words are on the page. So
Mm.
what I realized while I was writing the book is it's a lot more complicated than I thought. And I'm in the industry, and it's more complicated than I thought. And it's more complicated than I think people give it credit for.
Mm.
You can't just copy somebody else and think you're going to get the same results anymore.
Correct. Yeah, you can't do that. You have to be you. You can't be
Yeah,
anybody else, but you also have to learn you. That's what I wanted to get to, because like I said, I just started reading your book because I want to read it in order. I want to hear the introvert journey, and then I want to read your second book that just came out last Friday on your birthday, right?
yeah.
So I want to learn a little bit about how you were raised, because I feel that from what I'm grasping in this book, you were in a situation where your parents were, they had to make choices for you, right? With any kid, your parents have to make choices. Would you say that your parents are overall like optimistic people?
I would say that they've got a balance of doing the best they can with what they have
Mm-hmm.
and wanting the best at the same time. So it's kind of like they're optimistic to a point, but you don't get the best result without doing something. You can't
Right.
just sort of like, if I just hoped I would get healthy, I mean, I wouldn't be here. So you still got to do stuff. You've got to
Absolutely. Yeah.
figure out what the best outcome is, and then you do your best to work towards that.
Mm-hmm.
The optimism just comes along with wanting the best to happen.
All right. Well, I mean, it sounds fairly optimistic, and of course, like I'm sure they did what they could with what they had. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, because I grasped that in your book because you said they had to make like life decisions for you at a very young age,
yeah.
and even getting into like school age. Now, do you have any moments, if you don't mind sharing, like, did you have any moments where you were going through being bullied in school and shared that with your parents? Like, were they aware of that?
I think they were to a certain extent, but I don't think they, because it wasn't so bad that I would like go home and like cry into my parents.
Mm,
It wasn't that bad, but it was little chips away because I didn't know how to. I wasn't overly secure in myself anyway.
mhm,
I went through a rebellious phase around my conditions. I didn't want to do any of the treatments or any of the whole teenage thing. That rippled across into my health conditions as well. So I went
mhm,
through a very stubborn phase around not doing things where that's concerned as well.
mm,
And I just got to a point where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Didn't really know who I was at the time. Um, and all I knew was that I was lesser than everybody else because of the bullying and the conditions and everything. Like I was in a space where I didn't know who I was, but all I knew was that there was a piece missing, or
mm,
that I wasn't enough yet. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't, it wasn't that didn't know who I was. The bigger thing was all I knew was in comparison to everybody else, I I wasn't good enough.
mm. So, how did you deal with that? Because we have two versions in a sense. It's still you, but we have the version where you compared yourself to others and you're like, they're here, I'm here, kind of thing. I've been through that too. That's why I wanted to have you on because I'm curious of how you shifted, caused the shift, right? And then, so we have the version of you, self doubt, not being good enough. And now we have an empowered version of you where it's like, although I'm aware of that less than sense, I'm thinking more than now, where you're now an award-winning podcaster, you're interviewing celebrities, you're having public events, you're you have two books out now. What happened to cause you to change your vision of self? What is it that clicked for you?
But the starting point for me was I actually had to slow down, and because when I'd left the sort of schooling system, like over in the UK, your college and your university, you can pick. You can choose
Mm,
courses to do. You get you get allocated to certain colleges based on your grades and all those things. But you then pick your courses, you then pick your degree, which I fortunately have as well. And from then on, I could choose. But because I didn't know who I was and what I wanted, that had to come first.
mm,
I had the time between finishing school and picking what I wanted to do.
mm,
That was all about self-discovery for me. That was about what did I enjoy? Who am I without the bullying? Who am I without? Because at the time I had to draw a line under that and say fresh start time.
mhm,
I had to give myself almost like the permission to start again. The permission to, I mean, it sounds like reinventing yourself until you break it down, right? Like
mhm,
invented yourself, yeah, but the whole thing was I had to almost completely let go of everything up until I was about 16. And I had to go,
mm,
I without the bullies, who are, because I went through a bullying slash people pleasing phase.
Mm.
I liked the people that were praising me, and I wanted to move towards that and away from the other people. So,
Hmm.
but I also had to think about who am I without that, because I wasn't going to get praise for that anymore. I wasn't going to get bullied for that anymore.
Mm.
To different colleges, and some of them were just getting jobs and doing all the other stuff. The chances of me seeing those people again were pretty much zero. So I wasn't going to get the good or the bad,
Okay.
but I didn't know who I was without those things.
Interesting. Okay.
So I had to figure that out. I had to figure out, okay, who am I, like, just on a day to day? You know, what kind of person am I? What do I enjoy doing? Because sometimes you find out who you are by doing things that you enjoy. Joy is
Yes.
a sign of who you are as a person. What kind of person are you? Tends to be what you enjoy. You know, because you enjoy it because it's closely linked to who you are as a person. So that was my start, and from there I realized I'm quite a high energy person, I suppose. Like I'm quite and I don't want to say outgoing, but I'm quite a joyful person. I'm quite happy, even given we're in the
Mm.
pandemic, being the pandemic even now. So I've managed to come out of that reasonably unscathed. I am,
Mm.
I'm reasonably even. I'm not all over the shop. Um, and I thought, right, well, what's the main core of that?
Right.
Well, one of the main characteristics of being even all the time is your environment doesn't send you up and down all the time. You're not an intense person. But
Mm.
even means you're not completely high or completely low. So you're quite an even
Mm.
person. So where does the overstimulation come from? Crowds.
Mm.
High crowd, a lot of people, four's a crowd for me. I get quite, there's too much information at four people. I have to take regular toilet breaks that I don't really need just to get away from it sometimes.
I
Uh,
see. Okay. So you remove. So you're saying that you're like susceptible to your environment in a sense where, I mean, I think everybody's kind of like that, right? Like I think that's just human nature. If you're That's like that quotes that we've all heard, or some of us may have heard, that like if you're around a group of people that are quote unquote unsuccessful, you'll be the next. Or you're around a group of people that are lazy, you'll be next. If you're around a group of people that are moving in a certain direction to creativity, you'll be next. Like, I think all of us are susceptible to our environments, and I think an environment is very important to be aware of. So what I'm hearing is the shift that happened for you is that you questioned self, you tried different activities that you enjoyed, and you also changed, or what you added more awareness not only to yourself but to your environment. That's what you're saying kind of started to kickstart this shift into who you are today.
it was in that moment as well that I realized I was quite high on the introvert spectrum. So
Mm.
my stimulation had limits that were way lower than other people.
Right.
Like that, oh, big crowds of people, it's amazing, I soak you up. And I'm like, oh, no, thanks. That's like, I want to go to bed when we start getting past like six people in a room.
Right.
Um, where that differs is where I control how many interact with me. So, an example of that would be an event I'm speaking at. If you're the speaker, you're not in the crowd. You're not, or you can choose rather, do you get involved with the crowd or do you just say your piece, interact with those that are fortunate enough to be at the room at the exact moment when you're walking through?
Mm.
That I can handle. That I can handle because when I'm on stage, I'm on my own. There's nobody.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. Get over the initial stage fright. I can live with however the dice falls, with how I manage to speak.
Mm-hmm.
With conferences and parties and all kinds of other stuff, my brain just can't focus. It's all over the place. I want to focus on all of it. And my brain's like, whoa, no, we need to have a sit down.
Yeah.
I realized that my ceiling is much lower than the social butterflies that go out every weekend and book conferences in their spare time. And I'm like, no, that's just not me. So
Mm-hmm.
I realized then that I was quite a high introvert, and I realized that that was who I was. And I realized as well, because tennis was one of the sports I enjoyed to play.
Mm.
Again, you're on your own. It pays to be quiet when you play tennis. So it's like, right, that fits, that fits the model that I sort of built around who I was. It shows in what I enjoy. So the action
Mm-hmm.
reverse engineer, if you will, who you are as a person. And I thought, okay, that's that's what I'll do. I like playing sport. I like keeping active, which started from health reasons, became something I started to enjoy. And I followed that. I followed that path initially, and that took me to coaching, sports coaching,
Mm-hmm.
training, all the way through until present day.
That's awesome. I mean, I think it takes a lot of courage to make that shift, because I think what some people aren't aware of is that you have different types, right? You could have the version of self, or a version of a person where they're like, look, I know I need to make a change. I know I need to start something. There's something in me that needs to come out, in a sense where I need to find something out. I need to find out who I am, right? And then they go through that shift, and they say, let's say a friend says, read this book. They read the book, and they're fired up for like 10 minutes or a week or 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden they're right back to square one. I think what, is necessary is, or what I heard from you is, there's some level of consistency in trying new things. Like, I'm pretty sure the version of you from before, where you kind of attached to the self-doubt, couldn't have gone and done a conference. You know what I mean? There was probably no way, because there was so much conversation in self saying, what? Probably there wasn't even an idea, I would say, right? There wasn't even an idea of a conference then, but there is now, because you got something to share, which is that rebirth, in a sense, where it's like, okay, yeah, that version's still there, but this is how we practice. It's a constant practice, like every day. You know what I mean? I think that's something that we don't spend enough time on. It's the reason why it falls off is because the practice stopped. You know what I mean? The reason why we don't get to here is because we're still stuck here. And the most important thing is that mindset, that can do attitude. Not to say, now, I'll ask you this. Do you still deal with, because it sounds like it's a yes, but I want to know from you, how and if, do you still, I'll ask the first question. Do you still deal with those self-doubt moments?
I do, in a sense that although I may have skills and mindsets and a trust in myself I can carry into any situation that I'm in these days, if it's something I've done for the first time, or it's something that's different, or I can't plan for it, then yeah, of course I do, because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want it to happen. There's a lot of unknowns going on. There's only so much you can do, and then the rest of it is nerves. And it is, do I know if I can do it? Can I do it as well as I would hope? Can I
Mm-hmm.
expectations of others? Can I meet the standards that I've set myself? All that sort of self-talk does go on because I don't actually know if I can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've done it. It's healthier now because again I've got a couple of strings to my bow. I can try to make up the difference. I can look back and go, oh well, I still did my best, So there's an element of that. But equally, yeah, I mean, if you don't doubt yourself, you're doing things that are completely within your wheelhouse.
Mm,
You're setting your standards, but it's still in your comfort zone. It's still
mm.
in your abilities. It's still, as you grow in abilities, your comfort zone expands.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? That's crazy, right?
It is, because you can learn the skills, and your lack of experience lowers your standards, even if you can go beyond them, right? You've never done it
Mm,
before, but you've got the skills. All right, well, you should take those skills into account. You're not a beginner because you have the skills. So a lot of people set their standards too low,
mm.
and then they go, "Oh, I never get nervous." I wouldn't either. No, but I'd be great. You know, it'd be
Right.
phenomenal. It'd be amazing. Oh, I'm so confident all the time. When was the last time you really? Oh, no, no, no. Well, don't do that.
Mm,
You really pushed yourself. Well, I don't know. I don't really push myself anymore. Right. Well, that's probably why. Like, things don't stay uncomfortable.
mm-hmm,
After you've done them a few times, they don't stay uncomfortable. So you've got to throw things in. If you're the
mm-hmm,
person that wants to push themselves often, you've got to throw a novelty in, throw something unknown in, like
mm-hmm.
a game with yourself with how little can you prepare and still pull it off.
Right.
I think people don't push, they don't challenge themselves, they don't go in and go, right, I've got an event to speak at, I normally have
Mm-hmm.
reams and reams and reams of notes. Let's try 3 bullet points and see how I get on. That's a challenge. It,
Mm,
nervous because you don't prepare as much. And
mm.
people that waddle on with no preparation at all, and they still do really well. I said, right, well, how can you push yourself? No matter what
Mm-hmm.
you're at, professional sportsmen still have coaches to go, look, here's your challenge for today. Here's what the intention is for today. Here's how we're going to try to improve a little bit today. You know,
Yes.
you're doing things quicker, smoother, easier,
Mm,
less nervous than before, smoother than before. Whatever it is, there's always
right.
something that you,
Absolutely.
as a challenge, as a bit of a. I mean, challenge is becoming the spice of life these days. Because
Mm,
even novelty isn't enough anymore. I
right.
had a joke with a friend the other day, and it's like, look, disaster movies have got a lot to live up to these days. So just
Mm,
laughing. She's like, why? I said, well, we've just been through a pandemic. We've had Brexit. We've got super volcanoes erupting. We've got everything's going on at the minute. The whole world's up in the sky right now.
mm.
A comet that's going to hit the Earth in a film is not going to be enough. So,
Right.
zombies are almost a joke. Like when
Right.
you watch a zombie film, I start laughing at some of the gory parts because it doesn't look real. Like we've
We've
become,
seen it. We've seen it all.
yeah, we've become so conditioned to like what life is and what are some of the. It's like we've all had a collective traumatic experience.
Crazy.
It's gonna change. Everything's gonna change. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do a job that I don't enjoy anymore. Why would I do that? There's so many people are having mini realizations at the same time, and
Absolutely.
that's the kind of. It was a bit of a joke, to be fair, because my friend was like, "Yeah, zombies just don't really do it for me anymore." I was like, we used to be scared of those things. Now it's like we start laughing because they don't move quick enough. They walk really slow. We walk a bit quicker. They're never gonna win.
That's funny.
It's a bit of a stupid joke,
But
but
it makes sense.
it does make sense. Things that are uncomfortable, after a while, stop being uncomfortable. And you've got to find your new thing.
Mm,
And
I,
you've got to find your new challenge.
yeah.
That's why so many people that do random stuff when they're bored. They're
Mm-hmm.
bored and they're after a new challenge.
Right.
No matter, I can't cook, right? So one of the things I'm trying to do as a bit of a challenge for me is try to figure out how to cook stuff. And
Nice.
I'm hopeless at learning languages, so that's another one.
Mm,
I need to get better at writing books, but that's beside the point. Uh,
mm.
it's at a point where you've just got to find that next thing. You just got to keep finding the next thing to push you on, to move you forwards. And there is a lot to be said for people that don't do that. It's like if
Mm.
you do the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to eventually get bored.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think wow, you made a lot of great points there. And it's kind of along this quote that I said, like, your comfort zone has a comfort zone. Like, the more things you try, it's like you said, you're going to get comfortable. But if you don't try more things on top of that, you're never going to grow. You know what I mean? And the more experiences that you have, it shapes you as a person. You really start to learn self, because that's the thing. I don't know if we're all kind of aware of it now, because with being human, we're changing not only as individuals, but we're also changing as a species. We've never been here before. At this day and time, we've never been here before. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be new, but you kind of have to like be self-taught and be aware of self to see where not only do you fit in, but also what you like and dislike, who you're going to be. Because when we're teenagers, we think this is it. You know, you remember when you were a teenager, you're like, I got everything. I understand everything. Ain't nobody gonna tell me anything. Whatever you say is wrong. Okay. So you can go somewhere with that. You know what I mean? That's where we were as a teen. And then our 20s, we're starting to come out of that. Hopefully. Hopefully. You know what I mean? Not all of us. Some of us be 30, like, ain't nobody gonna tell me nothing. You know what I mean? But like, I think we get to that point where it's like, what else is there? What else? What else? Like, just like you said with your friend the zombies, it's like, okay, that doesn't really do it for me anymore because we've seen it all. I think when we get to this age, it's like, I mean, if you're grateful to, or you have the ability of exposing yourself to different things, you've kind of seen it all. You know what I mean? But what I'm also hearing is if you want, like, everybody has potential for growth. Everyone has the same potential for growth, no matter what it is. I don't care. And just like what you're saying, or the vision that I get from your book, your first book, it's no matter what setback, you always have an equal opportunity to grow. Whether you have a health condition, whether if it's your mindset, your environment, you can always prevail. Because that's the three things I'm hearing. Because you had medical setbacks, you're dealing with that and constantly and consistently overcoming that. You had mental setbacks, such as, I don't think that well of myself, but you still challenge that. And then you had environment setbacks, where people weren't so supportive, but there were also people supportive, but you had to get into that, like, that, get in and out of that people pleasing situation to kind of grow. So it sounds like with the books you're writing, the speeches you do, the podcasts you do, these are all tools that you're using to maintain who Mike is today. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge because, I'm grateful to also be a part of when we do Clubhouse too, because I get to learn a little bit more about your mindset, but also I'm a work in progress, because I too share that introvert journey. Like, Mike, I never used to speak. Like, I just didn't say anything. Like, I would just miss one word. Like, they'd be like, hey, Stace, how's it going? Good.
Fine.
Yeah, like, just, I'm okay. I used to say, they're like, are you all right? I'm like, I guess. Like, that usually was my answer. And I didn't realize that how much of that answer I was speaking into it. Like, it became a reality. I guess was just in everything I did. There was no real connection to things because I didn't know who I was. Had no idea. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until this day and age, in my 30s, that I started to wake up to that. I mean, I had a taste of it in my 20s, in a sense, because I started my podcast and I wanted to be along like you, where it's like I'm sharing why people do what they do. because I wanted to know what is it in this person that this person has or doesn't have, or do we all have it? What the heck is going on? Like, because I want to know why you have it and maybe I don't. But then I had to realize through the podcast that we both have the same thing, but it's just going to look a little different. You know what I mean? Like somebody wants to be a basketball player. I don't want to be a basketball player. I'm 5'2". You know what I mean? Not to say that there's not 5'2" basketball players, but I can't see myself every day just like that's not going to be me. You know what I mean? I'm more of a brainy person. You know what I mean? And just like you, I'm aware of space. Like, okay, you see the body language on this person? Like I read a lot of books on body language because I was trying to fix my body language. You know what I mean? I read a lot of books about speaking. I was like, I want to be a better speaker. You know what I mean? So it is a constant practice. It is. And there's going to be some days where you're on and then some days when you're off. And the days when you're off, sometimes that's an off day. But it doesn't mean that you can't have another on day.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit about your book that just came out. What is it called? Why did you write it?
The book is called Dear Me, There's a Better Way. And it took me a while to come up with the title because I wanted to come at it from you have to find a way. I mean, if you've seen the book, it's like a brick wall as the cover, and that's what I would tell myself when I came up against a brick wall.
Mm.
Must be a better way. There must be a way around it. There must be a way I could do this. And that's when it clicked. You know, it was something that made me work harder to push through things rather than stop and not try to get through the wall. I realized there's a perfectly good door next to me that I've just not seen to sort of open and walk through. So that's the title. That's why I sort of named it what it is. And the book came from my initial desire, I guess, to help those people, the people that are struggling, the people that have probably had bad experiences with things like meditation and journaling before. They don't know if it works for them. All those sorts of people, that's who the book's for.
So is that something you tell yourself still today, like every day? Or whenever you have those moments of doubt or so, or concern?
It is, because what people don't really like talking about is successful people still hit roadblocks. They still have things they're just not telling you. That doesn't mean they don't exist, right? And even even more successful people in the world have problems. They have something. They have something they're dealing with. Doesn't matter what it is. And even someone that supposedly teaches people this stuff and helps people with this stuff, as you said yourself, Stacey, is that we're all a work in progress, aren't we? Doesn't matter where you're at, doesn't matter what your starting point is, how much growth that you're on. You're still working on something. You're still looking for that challenge. You're still looking for a little bit of improvement every single day or every single week or whatever it is. And I think that people need to start sharing that a bit more. As we can't just share the wins. You can't just share the losses either. I mean, can you imagine someone that doesn't really have any wins at all and all they share is like, oh my god, I hate my life right now. It's you've got to be aware of like your impact on other people when you post stuff. Like if all you post is woe is me type stuff, just imagine what that's doing. Like you know your situation, you post it, you're kind of infecting them with your way of thinking because you know it, you post it because you want other people to know it, other people to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what that's doing to them if all you post is negativity all the time.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's a catch-22 as well, because people start to think that you're bulletproof if you don't share any negativity at all.
Mm-hmm.
Think you're this marvelous person where nothing goes wrong, and that's not true either.
Right.
But we're also not a complete and total mess. Like, we're probably similar to each other in that regard. You know, we've all got problems, all got things that we're working on, and we have some good things too. I just need some bit more help to keep seeing those good things.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be so focused on the bad things, you forget there are some good things too.
Right.
And that's a challenge. It's a fine balance. It is a balancing act. Some people do it better than others. I know I'm guilty of maybe being a bit too positive, even
Mm.
on bad days. That's something I am trying to. I'm trying to improve on that. I'm trying to get to a space where sharing the bad things in a productive way or an effective way.
Hmm.
That's something I'm still trying to navigate and still trying to not learn how, but learn the frequency of doing.
Mm.
If I do it every week or every day, people will be like, "What's wrong with Mike? Is he all right? Is he feeling okay?" Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just trying to be a bit more like real with what I'm doing. And I said, "Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
seem to be posting about it. Okay, I'll hold off then, shall I? And I'll post funny jokes and stupid memes that I find on Google, and whatever it is, people will go, "Oh, Mike's so perfect." No, I'm trying to find a balance between the effective sort of meh stuff and the amazing stuff. Got to try and find it, but you're never going to please everybody. So
That too. Yeah.
over the past 12 months, I've gone, you know what, it doesn't matter. Having a bad day, I'm having a bad day. Do they need to know about it? By they, I mean you lot, public, people listening, watching this. Do
Mm.
they need to know? Maybe, maybe not. I sort of make that judgment call myself as to like, do people really want to know? Do people
Right.
need to know? If I stub my toe on the bed when I
Mm.
get out of bed, do people need to know that? No, not really.
Oh my God.
So I
Yeah.
think it's it's having to make the executive decision on what I share and how I share it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to wake up and I'm going to stub my toe tomorrow, and I might get the odd message or be you on like Monday going, "Did you stub your toe this morning, Mike? Or it'd be good. Have you got a plaster on that toe, or are you all right?" I go, "No,
Yeah.
it was spare of the moment mentioned on the podcast." It very rarely actually happens, to be honest.
I'm gonna start checking in on you. I'm gonna be like, look, like is today, it's Tuesday. Any day that starts with T, you might, stub your toe. Toe Tuesday, toe Thursday. I get it. But I think you made some great points there because I don't know consciously at this time if there really is a balance, like a balance to sharing the positive and not so positive moments. Because what I do, like for example, on social media, like I share the things I learn. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'm sharing it in the moment. Sometimes I'm sharing it later. You know what I mean? Like a lot of my posts, because what I think about is when I leave this planet, I don't know what day that's going to be, but I want to make sure that because I know with the way things are going with social media, it's not like the page is going to get taken down. You know what I mean? I wanted to make sure that I was creating a space where somebody can either laugh or feel empowered by looking at what I posted, but also they can see the growth happen in real time. Because if you go way back into my page, like sometimes, when Facebook will post like something you posted 5 years ago, right? I'll repost that and I'm like, you guys don't understand where I came from. You know what I mean? Because just like you said, people usually see the end result. They see the end result where you're on fire. You know what I mean? but they don't know what it took for you to get there. You know what I mean? So I try and share a little bit of that to be like, look, the version of me before was a little bit different. That version of me is still there, but it's because I'm in constant practice that's why you see the motivation. You know what I mean? So we're actually in the last 5 minutes, but what is something you would say to someone that is looking for a book to read? Like, why should they read either of your two books? Why should they read it? What are they gonna get from that?
The way I would describe what I'm trying to do, I mean, whether I do it or not, is kind of, you sort of take it. I'm hoping people take it in this way. It's kind of where I'm going with it. But I want to do things that empower people to live their way.
Mm,
And a lot of it's based on hope, right? Because people just need just that feeling of everything's going to be okay. Just that feeling of I'll be all right. I can handle it. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm good. I'll take one step at a time, one step a day. It's still quite far if you do it every day for a year.
mm,
And despite how it may come across in terms of people try to take it as like gospel or word for word, and they try to copy, right? A lot of people take advice and they try to copy it rather than, if you picture yourself as a jigsaw puzzle and all the pieces that I give you are different shapes and sizes, you've got a couple of options. You find the one that fits
mm,
and it fits.
mm,
You make it fit and
mm,
you chip some off, you cut off a corner or two, and you you sand it down, or you cut little bits off and you keep testing it to see if it works. If it doesn't fit, you take it back out and you cut away again, and then you make it work for you. You make it fit. You make it
mm,
fit into your life. Because some of the pieces that I give, whether you take something from my first book, which is mostly just a lessons learned of my journey initially, or my second book, which is essentially self-help advice, but then at the end it's like, look, you've got to find your way.
mhm.
You've got to find your way of doing it. Learn more about who you are, can speed up your entire process. That's kind of the full synopsis of what I was hoping for the book to be. And that's what it's about. It's about, I'm giving you different pieces, different sizes, different shapes. If they don't fit, then you make them fit. It's not your fault.
Mm,
These don't fit. You need to learn how to make them fit.
wicked. Wicked. I think that's a great way to end the show. Thank you so much for having me on. Well, wow. Thank you so much for being on this show. I'm so used to being on your shows, Michael. I'm like, thanks, man. Real quick.
Letting me be the host.
Oh my God. Yo, I mean, it really did feel like a collaborative effort, though. So I appreciate it. But where can we find you on social media? Where can we find your books?
Well, the books are on Amazon, wherever you can get them. So depending on which country you're in, it's whichever Amazon works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Podcast, which is the Michael Bryan Show, is on everything. So from iTunes to Google to Amazon to Stitcher to TuneIn and you name it, it's on there. So if you search the Michael Bryan Show, you'll be able to find it.
Perfect. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being on Pryce on Purpose. I appreciate your time as always, and thank you so much for, I have to be grateful. Sometimes, we may be in that moment where we're struggling. We're like, oh my God, like I just want to get out of this. But in a sense, a nice way to look at it is like is here to teach me something. If we look at our experiences as a teaching moment, we can obtain something and share it with others so that they can go through their tough times and hopefully they can get to the space that we're in where we're a little bit more optimistic each day.
Well, I completely echo that, Stacey. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on, and I look forward to seeing what happens when the show comes out.
Heck yeah. Thank you again.